Welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into one of the greatest psychological novels ever written, Crime and Punishment, by Fyodor Dostoevsky. A story about guilt, morality, punishment, and ultimately, redemption. Let's get started. Our story begins in St. Petersburg, where we meet Radonian Romanovich Raskolnikov, a brilliant but impoverished ex-student. He lives alone in a tiny room, barely eats, and spends most of his time lost in dark, obsessive thoughts. Raskolnikov develops a dangerous theory. Humanity is divided into ordinary people who must obey the law and extraordinary people who have the right to break it for a greater purpose. He convinces himself that if someone committed a crime for the good of society, it might be justified. To test this idea, and to escape his crushing poverty, he chooses a target, Alyona Ivanovna, a cruel old pawnbroker whom many people despise. One hot July evening, Raskolnikov carries out his plan. He visits Alyona's apartment, strikes her with an axe, and kills her. But the crime spirals out of control. Her innocent sister, Lizaveta, unexpectedly walks in. Panicked, Raskolnikov murders her too. He escapes unseen, but he leaves with almost nothing of value, and everything changes. The true punishment begins immediately. Raskolnikov becomes trapped inside his own mind. He can't sleep, he can't think. He swings between confidence and terror. Every knock on the door feels like the police. Every conversation feels like an interrogation. His relationships begin to crumble. He pushes away his loyal friend, Razumikin. He upsets his mother and sister who come to visit. He wanders the city in a fever, half delirious. Meanwhile, a brilliant detective named Porfiry Petrovich begins to suspect him, not because of evidence, but because of his nervous, contradictory behavior. Porfiry plays psychological chess with Raskolnikov, slowly tightening the noose. At his lowest point, Raskolnikov meets Sonia Marmeladova, a young woman driven into prostitution to support her starving family. Despite her suffering, Sonia remains compassionate, gentle, and deeply faithful. She becomes the moral center of the story. Raskolnikov confides in her. She listens, and she tells him something no one else dares. Salvation only comes through confession and acceptance of suffering. Only truth can free your soul. Sonia's kindness begins to break down the walls inside him. While Raskolnikov fights his guilt, another character enters the story. Svidrigailov, a corrupt man who represents everything dark inside Raskolnikov. Svidrigailov knows too much. He subtly threatens, manipulates, and reveals shocking truths. But even he ultimately loses his own battle with morality. After a desperate night, Raskolnikov can no longer bear the weight of his crime. With Sonia by his side, Raskolnikov finally walks to the police station. He confesses. He receives 8 years of hard labor in Siberia. It seems like the end, but for Dostoevsky, this is the beginning. Sonia follows him to Siberia, supporting him through the harsh conditions. At first, Raskolnikov remains cold and proud. But slowly, painfully, he begins to feel genuine remorse. For the first time, he sees the world through Sonia's eyes, through compassion instead of pride. In the final pages, Raskolnikov experiences a spiritual rebirth. The rigid philosophy that once guided him collapses. He understands that no human being has the right to place himself above others. He embraces love, truth, and responsibility, things he once rejected. And with Sonia beside him, he begins a new life. Crime and Punishment is more than a story about murder. It's a deep exploration of conscience, suffering, and the path to redemption. If you enjoyed this summary, don't forget to like, subscribe, and let me know which book you want me to cover next.